Good afternoon, Phil.
Well, so one thing people will notice is that this broadcast is a lot less intelligent and a lot less good looking than it typically is, because our matriarch is at a real estate conference that appears to be occurring on top of a mountain overlooking Lake Tahoe in the woods.
Yes, she knows how to pick the conferences, doesn't
She knows how to she knows how to pick conferences. I'm dressed like a spaceman in Dallas last week with like an N95 mask, and, you know, people looking at me like, you're a loser. Because I was one of maybe 10% that was wearing a mask in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And she's in Tahoe in the mountains overlooking God's splendor. And yeah, she's a little better at this than we are. And you know what she did? She's like, oh, this is the view from my hotel room. And she's got this gorgeous, like, you know, Newport, Rhode Island looking view out there, or Lake Tahoe view. When I have, like, you know,
I think
HVAC things.
I was going to say, in your next life, you're going to be an air conditioner repairman or something like that. Oh, I recognize this problem.
Yes. Yeah. Gotcha. So, but we can rant and complain and maybe create a cautionary discussion in Jenn's absence. Mm-hmm. And so an interesting thing happened over my weekend, which is our ISA guy, who takes a lot of the inquiries from consumers, had his sister get married. So I stepped in as the ISA. And for those of you who don't know, an ISA is inside sales associate. That's the guy that answers the phone and pairs you up with an agent that is the best match for you, either geographically or depending on whatever specialty you need to be matched up with. First time home buyer, right, horse property, pet friendly, co-op, whatever. So we got a inquiry from someone on a $675,000 condo right in my backyard overlooking the Hudson in Ossining. And they wanted to see it. I got the inquiry at about 12:30 on Saturday. And it said that they wanted to see it at 1:30, which is fine. That's you're eager. We'll get you in as quickly as we can. You probably know, though, that if you want a really good agent representing you, they may be busy Saturday. They may have clients that they're...
I would hope they would be.
Right. They may have clients they're working with. But we check the listing, check availability, and one of the things that the listing had was specific instructions that a COVID disclosure must be provided, and that no appointment would be confirmed without a pre-approval or proof of funds being furnished to the listing brokerage. And this is not a new thing. This is a COVID-related sort of thing because, A, we don't want someone who's not qualified looking at property. We don't want looky-loos anyway. But B, in a pandemic, if we're going to take whatever calculated risks we must take with letting someone from the public out into a private home, we'd like to make sure that they are in fact qualified, not just to save time, but to ensure health.
Right.
And the lady stated that she was a cash buyer and that she shouldn't have to provide proof of funds. And I shared with her, we'd really love to earn your business. But please understand, it's not me making the rule. It's the seller. Mm-hmm. And if you want to get into the seller's home, you have to follow their rules, their house, their rules. And I said, just so you know, if we were able to do business with you and you listed your place, because she lived in the complex already, she was looking to upgrade, she said. If you want your place sold and we were representing you, I would also make sure that whatever strangers walking through your home were qualified, and we didn't have people unqualified schlepping through your house, opening your closet doors, etc. And her answer was, well, I wouldn't open any closet doors.
Right.
It's not really the point, right? So the point is that whatever I do in your house, and yes, you will open the doors because you're going to want to see the master suites closet, and you're going to want to see how much cabinet space there is and all of that. That's we're not debating this. So I sent her actually a screenshot of the listing, and I circled in yellow these specific instructions. And she, after some discussion, appeared to agree that, okay, I'll have to look that up. And she said, well, how will I get that? I said, well, if you're a cash buyer right now, you probably have an online banking. You could send us a screenshot of it. We don't need anything terribly formal. And I said, redact your account number. Don't do something that'll undermine your privacy if this makes you uncomfortable, but you need to produce something.
Right.
And I then handed her off to one of our buyer agents who contacted me and said she's not going to provide any financials. So I reached out to her again, and that's when I sent her the screenshot, to which she said, I will only show you this at the door. But the listing brokerage will not confirm us or allow us to knock on the door without this being provided. Now, if you and I, Tim, were to go out and maybe go down to Central Avenue down there or Route 6 somewhere and test drive a $800 used car, they would ask us for our driver's license. Now, why do you suppose they would do that?
Just to see if you're able to drive a car, if it's legal for you to drive a car.
See if this is something you can actually do.
And a little bit of identification if you're going to drive off with their car, whether it's 800 or 8,000 or whatever car, they need some idea.
But even for a jalopy, as we called it back in the day, you'd need to show us your driver's license. Now, if you are going to perhaps buy something for almost $750,000, it is not unreasonable to have some limited documentation that you're actually good for it.
Mm-hmm.
And this, by the way, it's not a new thing.
Right.
It's not even like a new COVID thing, really.
Yeah. I was gonna layer my story on top of this one. Just
go for it.
For effect.
Just give me the effect.
It's still September, which is Agent Safety Month.
Yeah.
And if you've got, and I did this, I started this seriously 6 years ago. I think it was when Beverly Carter was abducted. I think that was 6 years ago.
It was. Yesterday. It was almost to the day. It was I think 6 years ago Friday, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember right after that, about a month later, and I said it was up to me and you, really, because the women are competing with us on this front because of agents that will drop everything and go. And I said to myself, being, big guy, I will not show places unless I've fully vetted the person who wants to go see this house. And of course, I blame the homeowner because no one wants anybody getting abducted or killed or beat up or anything in their house. And number two, it was a financial thing where he said, look, I want to make sure that, anybody you bring in here, and this was 6 years ago, there's no COVID on the horizon, that they can afford it. So I get the call. It was October, and this had all come about. And we followed this all through the news. It was terrible. And so I said, I can't do this anymore. So the first phone call I get, I said, hey, I see this house in the north end of New Rochelle. It's got a sign on the front lawn. I live nearby. I want to come see it. That's great. Okay. Give
Yep.
me the information. Okay. This is good. And I'm selling my house. This is the first dead giveaway. What's your address? I want to look up the sale of your house, just to make sure he's selling, another $500,000 house to look at another 500 or 700. And he didn't want to give that to me at this time. And I said, well, I need to get some information to make sure we're looking at the right things. I just want to see the house. And it's like, well, the seller is very particular, wants to make sure that everyone's vetted coming through here. I'm good for it. I'm selling my house. I was like, that's great. Let me have a little bit more. And went back for about 3 or 4 minutes. And I said, sir, I'm not going to show this to you without more information. And he said, I can get any agents to let you in there. And I said, well, that's interesting because I'm the listing agent of this house. And I'm the one that requires this information. So you won't get in unless I have this information to provide to the owner of the property. Because, it was safety that was on the top of everyone's mind, because this was national news that she got abducted, was missing for 3 days. And everybody wanted to put their best foot forward during that month. But here we are at the end of September again, and we can't let that slip by. But again, I use that on top of the COVID stuff. It's just, we can't do business the old way of just, I want to go window shopping. That's what the internet's for.
Yeah. There is, and this could have been someone who was just idly curious, because her response was, well, if I have to do this, then I'm not interested in seeing it. Okay. I said,
Right.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah.
Because for all the reasons above, and the buying public, they're not dumb. They're not dumb. This is not new. Okay. The idea that you have to prove some sort of qualification before you get in the car, as they say, is not a new idea, and it is not an unreasonable thing. Now, there is a ethos, I think, or an attitude among people of a certain age that kind of the customer's always right. And if my word isn't good enough, then you're insulting me, and I'll just do business with someone else. And the thing is, this person, I think, was sort of invoking that, but these are the same people that before someone comes into their house, they want to make sure that everyone has been vetted, screened, pre-approved, pre-qualified, and had a clean colonoscopy sometime in the last year, right? So it's kind of an ironic thing. Rules for thee, not for me.
For me.
And that's a little bit too bad. I think if there was more than idle curiosity, I think she may have played ball. She may have furnished us with these things. But if it were idle curiosity and we had bent over backwards to accommodate her, then we would have just wasted 90 minutes of our life between all of the haranguing and the travel and getting over there and watching her try and picture everything and
Right.
So the customer's not always right. Henry Ford had a famous quote. I bet you know what it was.
That one's escaping me. I was thinking of my own right now.
All right. Well, Henry Ford said, if he only listened to what the consumer wanted, then he would have been forced to develop a faster horse.
Right.
That's it. And he wanted more than a faster horse. He wanted something where you'd actually be inside, that you could load cargo onto and would go in reverse and wouldn't kick you if you sneezed when you walk behind it, etc., etc., etc. You might inhale a little exhaust if you walk behind it, but you wouldn't get your head kicked in.
Well, I was just thinking of at what point are they a customer? When someone calls you up, it's a phone lead, right?
Right.
And at one point are they a customer? When they provide you all that information. So therefore, you can't bend over backwards for everybody that rings your telephone. That's,
Well,
even
right.
though they might say, oh, well, you're not hungry. I'm like, of course I'm hungry. I'm just not stupid. I can't every time the phone rings, I'm not Pavlov's dog, going to run every time it rings.
One of our veteran agents I think had a bad year. And it was rooted around meeting up with people at their convenience, at their behest. And she got ghosted time after time after time.
Yep.
And at some point, I had said to her, when are you going to hold people to standards? When are you going to operate like you're the professional and they have to listen to you? And I think the next year she got, sick and tired of being sick and tired, I suppose is one way of putting it.
Exactly.
But she basically said, I'm not working with you until you hire me. We're going to have a consultation. We'll meet at my office. We'll get everything out of the way. And by the way, this is the largest financial event of most people's lives, so we should have a consultation. And that turned her entire career around. And I think 2015 onward, she was a reliable producer who very seldom ever got ghosted. Was she the top producer in the company? It wasn't even her goal. But did she ever get ghosted? Very rarely.
Right.
Very rarely. And I think really the takeaway for just about everyone out there in the public, the one thing you do need to understand, we want to make the customer happy. However, you got to meet us halfway in this day and age. And it is not unreasonable to ask you for a pre-approval that you are qualified to purchase prior to showing you a property. And frankly, if they're not going to be cooperative then I don't want to invest 4 or 6 weeks in them and have them be really uncooperative later. And I or my agent, more specifically, will have invested all that time and it will not work out. We want everybody to have a happy outcome. We want results. We want them to achieve their real estate goals, all of that.
Right.
But you got to give us your driver's license, as it were, right? You got to show us the pre-approval. And if you're going to say, I'm a cash buyer, prove it. And it's not too hard to prove. It really isn't.
Yeah. No, it's not hard at all. And I'll tell you, I wasn't showing this weekend. I was at one of my kids' events, and I ran into an old friend from over a decade ago, and we sparked up a conversation. And of course, I wasn't going to miss my child's event. But then Monday, I see, I said, oh, look me up on J. Phillip, whatever the lead comes through on J. Phillip. They're looking at houses. We had a little real estate conversation, and they were like, oh, great. I'd like to get back into it and see if we should, trade up and whatever. If I wasn't at that event doing something else, I wouldn't have met up with someone who I know is a solid person who I've known for 10 years and, made that connection again. If I was just running around, trying to get in a few more showings with somebody who rang the phone this week and not getting, developing these connections that I know with this circle of friends that show up to these events. If I was out running around and then get ghosted on those people, I wouldn't have made that connection again with the solid people I know that are in my core network.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
So yeah,
it is a relationship business.
It is. Absolutely. And I love meeting new people, which happened there also. And someday maybe they'll turn into something. But, when you start with your core people and not just running around with anybody that rings the phone, you'll be more of a success for it.
This is very true. This is very true. And I, regardless of, kind of where they come from, we need some cooperation because there's a lot of chefs in this kitchen. You've got a buyer, you've got a seller, you've got a listing agent representing that seller who is beholden to the seller's house rules. And you've got a buyer agent, I hope, if you're a buyer, who is going to have to help you navigate around all of these kind of rules. And, whether it's just wear a shoe covering or wear a mask or sign a COVID disclosure or whatever it is, something has to be done. And the customer's always right is kind of a diminishing kind of attitude over the years. I think I think that is starting to disappear. When I see people like
Well,
abuse a server or abuse a
yeah,
retail worker or berate a busboy in a restaurant because maybe they didn't clean something up soon enough or something like that. These people are on the one hand, we thank them for their service and all of that and tell them they're heroes in this pandemic. On the other hand, sometimes there's people that treat them like shit. And
right,
those are not the people that we want to do business with. We want to
right.
do business with, minimal amount of human respect. Just a, would be nice. I think this is a little fantasy I have. I think I would love to have sort of like a hidden camera on people and watch them return the cart, see where they leave their cart at the supermarket. All right. See how they treat a server in a restaurant.
Right.
See if they tip the Instacart person that delivered their groceries, and see if they're nice to people. Because if you're not going to be nice to the guy that's bringing your spaghetti, I don't know that you're going to be terribly cooperative with the person that's going to be the shepherd for the biggest real estate the biggest transaction of your life, right?
Yeah.
And this is me. That's just a fantasy. I can't, there's no crystal ball that would allow me to see that.
Well, that's the most people call us like Uber drivers, right? But Uber drivers have the app that goes both ways, meaning you can rate your customer just as much as you can rate your Uber driver.
So isn't that an
I don't
interesting
think we
thing?
want to go that far, but that puts some levity into the whole situation.
Wouldn't that be an interesting thing though? So for those of us who use Uber or those of us who use Airbnb, for example, you are rated as a consumer.
Yeah.
In addition to rating the service provider, right? So when we don't do it often, but I don't know, a couple times a year, we are Airbnb guests.
Right.
And we get rated. And you know what? That it's their house, it's their property, it's their, toilet you're flushing things down, it's their kitchen sink, it's their closet, it's their property. Sometimes it is their primary residence. Sometimes it is where they live also.
Sure.
But certainly they own it. And they have more than a right to know that, you leave the place as you found it. You communicate. You don't leave a mess. You don't leave ashes in the fireplace, whatever it is, whatever the thing is. You should be you can be rated as a guest. I don't know, but I can fantasize if it would be possible to rate consumers in some respects, because we are out there exposing ourselves to certain liabilities. There's a safety liability, there's the time and energy liability, there's the time and money liability. It's a fantasy. And I'm glad that I'm not the full-time ISA in the firm. I don't think I should. I don't think I should be that.
Right.
I'll tell you this: it gave me a lot of insight into how we should support our ISAs here,
right,
at this firm, for example. But yeah, it would be nice to rate the consumer, wouldn't it? We can dream. But the bigger point, perhaps, is that if you want to buy, you've got to provide credentials. You've got to provide that you got to prove you're qualified to buy, because it's the right thing to do. And it's not an invasion of privacy. There's all kinds of things we can do to redact personal information. You're not going to get your identity stolen. If I was going to steal your identity, I wouldn't show you property. Right. Just like when sellers are a little concerned that like valuables might be stolen from their house. Well, put your valuables away. But yeah, if I was going to rob you, I probably wouldn't go through a real estate agent and have all my stuff out there.
Right.
If I were going to, it's a little bit too much of a paper trail. Hide your valuables anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's more than fair nowadays for people to register, qualify themselves, and sign off that they're not going to show up if they feel like they have a fever or something else like that, and drag all the kids or whatever else it is that we don't have to do that anymore. And I'm not saying that to be a snob, but let's treat the transaction with the respect it deserves.
Well, that true words are never spoken. Let's treat the transaction with the respect it deserves. This is someone's home. This is your prospective primary residence. Overwhelming amounts of money are going to change hands. Lawyers are going to be involved. Insurance companies are going to be involved. Lending institutions or financial institutions are going to be involved. Even if it's cash, you don't have your money in a mattress. You're not going to show up with a briefcase full of 20s and 100s, except maybe once with John Dolgetta. But, most of the time, all kinds of, legitimate infrastructure and professionals are involved. So, meet us halfway there. So what makes me think that this person was just idle curiosity is because they were so shocked that the seller wanted financials, a financial document, didn't need their tax return, just, a proof of funds. Like, get on your online banking, just, click and send it to me. You can get a little with your account number.
Swipe it out.
And that's all we really need to do. Not asking for much. So that tells me this was the person's first foray. What's the old adage? You want to be the first love, second spouse, and third realtor?
Third realtor. Yeah.
We were the first. We were the first, and it was not a love connection. It wasn't. But that is my rant. That was my weekend rant. And it is a cautionary tale. And I am at peace with the fact that this lady may in fact sell her current unit and upgrade to another unit, and over $1 million in total may change hands.
Right.
But if it can't be done correctly, it shouldn't be done. And I don't want to do all the heavy lifting for her education so that somebody else can make a commission. So,
and then, when we say that we want to do these things, you would want us to do it for you when we handle yours. So, you want us to act this way when we're handling your property. Why would you want us to be any different when we're showing you something for the first time?
It was not a happy conversation the second time.
Never. Yeah.
But I had to smile when she said, well, I wouldn't open the closets. Like, this isn't a debate.
Yeah.
We're not debating that you'll open the closets or you want to open the closets. You just wanted to say something contrary to argue with me. They need a pre-approval.
Right.
Okay. That's it. You want to look at property? We need your pre-approval for a variety of reasons. We need your pre-approval or your proof of funds. And there's all kinds of stuff out there where you can redact your personal information, be completely protected. And if you are going to walk through somebody else's house, your privacy is not the only privacy that's at stake.
Right. And then for the agent side, like I just said, that the safety for everyone. So for every person smaller than I am that might be in danger when they walk into a house with somebody they don't really know, that should be an agent's number one reason. But then sellers should realize that this is a good thing, and qualified people take down all that important information and do it right the first time, puts everybody else in a better place.
Do it right. And the agent safety thing is not just to prevent a physical altercation or physical harm.
Yeah.
We have agents that get stalked and harassed and asked inappropriate questions and have all kinds of oogie, icky stuff happen to them that has nothing to do with a physical altercation, but they're putting themselves out there as quasi-public people, and they're vulnerable. And
Right.
oogie, icky people are out there doing oogie, icky things with them. And we don't need oogie.
Right. We'll have to put the definition of that in the show notes, I think.
Google it.
Google it. Yeah.
All right,
Very
Timothy. I
good.
think I'm done. I think I'm good. I think I've
That's a
gotten
good
it
one.
off my chest.
Yes.
Send
Very
me your
good.
bill. Send me your
Huh.
bill for the therapy.
We're all good. All right. Have a great week, Phil. And I guess Jen will be back by the end of the week. She's going to do her show on Friday.
I think she will. It'll be
Beautiful.
good to have her back.
Yes. Very good. Have a good one.
Namaste.